We're going places tonight. We're just not going very far because, as you know, there are a lot of places close by that are pretty interesting, especially if people are going to let you poke around a little bit. We begin with a place that's pretty famous. I mean, it's in the guidebooks because of the history and the architecture, but I have to admit, I'm one of those people who knew it was there, and that was about all I knew. It was pouring rain, but the party went on at the historic Chatillon DeMenil house in South St. Louis. At least this wasn't somebody's wedding day. This was a Bastille Day party, hosted by the foundation that has been taking care of the historic home for the last 45 years. And it is not the first or the last storm they will weather. As a lot of St. Louisans know, old homes have problems. And this is an old home. Actually, it's two old homes in one. Famous Western guide Henri Chatillon built his house here in 1848, sold it to businessman Nicholas DeMenil, whose wife, by the way, was a Chouteau. They expanded it, doubled it, made it into a mansion in the 1860s.
Very modest.
Kevin ONeil is the director and the only paid staff person at the Chatillon DeMenil house. Like most historic homes, it really depends on a lot of volunteers and fundraisers.
But structurally, it's an excellent structure, really.
Yeah.
The problems, though, that we have are mainly due to the roof, the poor roof conditions.
Right.
And you can see the woodwork that's rotted up there along the dental course under the planciers. And that's a result of poor roof drainage, and that's what some of the problems we're trying to address now.
There are plans to do the repairs on the roof and the wood trim. That's pretty straightforward. But the 4 ionic columns on the front of the house, they also need work, and they're not sure how much damage might be found on the supporting beams inside. These, by the way, are older than the house. They came from a mansion built in 1830 at 12th and Clark. Just about everything here has a story. It is a place with all kinds of history, from Gateway to the West days to Victorian times, the World's Fair. After World War II, after the last DeMenil moved out, it was owned by the man who ran tours of Cherokee Cave from this nearby building. The cave tours ended when Interstate 55 came right through in the 1960s and almost took the DeMenil house with it. But there was a successful grassroots effort to save the historic home, and that helped give rise to the strong historic preservation movement in the city. Of course, now the trick is to get new generations interested, aware, and involved.
Well, that initial saving of the house is more of a rallying point that's kind of hard to duplicate, as the years go by. Just a little bit hard to talk about the troubles the house is having when it looks relatively sound on the outside.
Fixing a roof isn't as sexy as saving a house.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Events and costumes can help bring things to life, as they did for the Bastille Day celebration. And they remind us that we live where others have lived before. And these few surviving structures serve as a focus, a gateway, really, to the past.
When I first came in here, I was just touring historic St. Louis homes, and because I've grown up in the area and I love history, and I've seen a lot of them. When I came in this house just grabs you. It really does. It grabbed me, and I've been here around since 1990, volunteering, and now I'm on the board and doing events here. But it really draws you in.
But how often do you hear, if you tell people, oh yeah, I volunteer over at the DeMenil house, do they say, yeah, I've never been there?
Yes. We hear that a lot, and it drives me nuts because so many people in St. Louis don't know we're here. And then when I say, oh, it's the white house you see with the columns when you're going up 55. Oh, yeah, I've seen it, but I never knew what it was.
A lot of people may know the DeMenil Mansion because of the cafe and the old carriage house, and maybe they came here for a wedding. That helps support the foundation. But the mansion is otherwise sort of tucked away in a corner of the city. The old Lemp Brewery is just across the street to the south, and the once fine view of the river is blocked by the interstate. But there was a time, back when the river was the city's main highway, when even the smaller house was a prominent landmark.
And in the early days, even of Henri Chatillon, there used to be a band in the Mississippi at this point. And after Chatillon's house was built in 1848, the boatmen started calling it Chatillon's Bend, because they knew as soon as Chatillon's house came into view, that's when they had to start being careful as to how they navigated that bend in the river, and it became noted on old charts of the river as Chatillon's Bend.
One of the things you notice when you drive by, when you're looking for it, today it's hard to see.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know if that works in your favor or against you.
It is sort of a two-edged sword, because we do kind of enjoy the seclusion behind the trees, and yet people wonder where the place is when they call on the phone.
This is the jewel in the crown of St. Louis. It really is. And it always drives me crazy when people don't know where we are. But once people come in and see this, they fall in love, because it's a museum, but it's also a home.
Old homes aren't everybody's cup of tea, but history draws all kinds of people to all kinds of activities. People who like to learn old dances, reenactors who make their own uniforms or learn to follow orders in French, and lots of other people who just think that places like the Chatillon DeMenil house, which has been here for so long, should be maintained so it's here a lot longer for future generations. Come rain or come shine.